Welcome to Veteran State of Mind. I'm your host, Geraint Jones, and we have a very, very interesting, different episode for you today. Different in the sense that we have a veteran who was never actually part of an army, so to say, but he is without 100% a veteran. Well, he is part of an army now, but we'll get to that in the story. It's a fucking interesting one, guys. You're going to enjoy it. Big time. I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Zulu Alpha Strap Company, Bombers Watch Straps for Ali Blokes. Guys, if you've been following us on social media, and if you're not following us on social media, please do so at Veteran State of Mind. You will be seeing me posting pictures of these Ali watch straps for Bombers Blokes. They look fantastic. They go good on any kind of timepiece. They are rugged. They are resilient. Guys, they look fantastic, right? If you go and check out at Zulu Alpha Straps on their social media pages, you will see these watch straps on frontline operators or the wrists of frontline operators around the world. I love them. I gave one to Dan Mills, who has killed a lot of bad guys, to put it bluntly. So do you think a guy that's going around like that is going to want anything but the best on his wrist? I don't think so. He said, I like that watch strap. And I said, here you go, mate. Because that's the kind of bloke I am. So why don't you do your old mate a favour? Head over to Zulu Alpha Straps. Purchase something from them. Support a veteran-owned and operated company. And of course, have to say a big thank you to the Royal British Legion. Because without the Royal British Legion, there is no podcast. End of. They make this possible. And they do a lot more important work than that too. Right now, you got the virtual field of remembrance where you can go and leave a message. Go and leave a message for those that went before us and their families so that they know that they are not forgotten. We will remember them. We all say this every year. But come on, guys, we have to actually put actions behind our words. It's all very well and good saying things, but are we actually doing it? Ask that to yourself and then go and take action accordingly. We have some special things coming up in the pipeline for Remembrance Sunday, for Remembrance Day. So keep your eyes peeled on that. But I promise you guys, we are going out of our way to do something. Obviously, this year, this year things have been affected by COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to fucking call it. Things have been affected, so we're going to try and up our game here so that we pick up some of the slack, basically, and we'll be letting you know how you can get involved with that. But it's a very important time of the year coming up, guys, as you know, so stand by for that one. I hope you've been enjoying the episodes recently, guys. Do appreciate when you send the feedback. Remember that you're not having to pay to listen to this podcast, but if you enjoy it, we ask of you to please tell a friend, please make a post, please leave a review. Please help us to get this into the ears of anyone who might need it. Let everyone have the chance to say, you know what, fuck this, I'm not interested. But give people a chance. Let's get it out there because it does help people. And it helps me. This gives me a great excuse to come and talk to people, and it keeps me, since we've been doing this, guys, I've been feeling a lot better mentally. So I want to thank you for my better mental state because it wouldn't happen without you. All right, let's get into today's podcast. Because of the nature of our guests, I'm not going to give away why he is going by a fake name, but we'll use that. Okay, so we're just going to call him Johnny for the sake of this podcast. It isn't his actual name. You can find him online. I will tag him up and everything on this, but all I will say is this guy was, by his own admission, a very ordinary guy going through life in the UK. Never had any inspiration or inclination to join the army. But he just couldn't stand what he was seeing in the Middle East when ISIS came to prominence. So he fucking put his money where his mouth was and he went out there to fight them. Please give a very warm welcome to our guest today, Johnny. Johnny, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. How are yourself?
I'm good, mate. You are our first guest from, I don't know, people might have been in their gardens and stuff in trenches. Who knows what kind of veteran issues they have. But you are our first official frontline podcast guest. So thanks for that, mate. You're in a corner of Europe, shall we say.
It's quite amazing with today's technology, like with the ways interviews are conducted.
Not going to lie, mate, I kind of am hoping you get some IDF during the podcast to really liven things up.
It would be nice, but the ceasefire, it's been pretty quiet, for the past 2 months. But you never know.
Are you missing it?
I'm missing it, but at the same time, if it leads to like a peaceful settlement, then like so be it. But like there's still that part of me that like itches for something to happen.
Yeah, I totally understand that, mate. It's like you've got the rational part of you obviously wants people to just live in peace and have a good life, and then there's the warrior part of you that wants to get stuck in on some action.
Especially like when you're on a war zone, like eventually, like when nothing has happened for like the past 2 months, like I'd say you get a bit complacent, so to speak, which is like hard to like. You have to keep like trying to like not get complacent with this sort of stuff. So that's like the dangers of it. But yeah, it's just bizarre. It's just been so quiet.
Yeah, and dude, I think well, actually, there's a couple of things I was going to say. In terms of it being quiet, how rural are we talking? Are you in an extremely rural kind of area?
Well, this area I'm in now, last year we were on deployment in the same area, and just for anyone that's not aware, back in 2014, like whole Ukrainian war kicked off. Russia invaded all that crap, and they eventually came to terms of a ceasefire. But like the ceasefire never worked. Like it was still static, like trenches and stuff. But, like people were still like killing each other, and there was fighting. And they kept like arranging like these ceasefires, but they never like stuck to it. So it was just basically free fall. And then eventually last year, the new president Zelensky, they introduced a supposed the last ceasefire like agreement, and it went okay for a month, and then it went to like it basically like fell apart because there was no restrictions in place. And so what they've done this time is they've introduced it again, but they've brought about like new OREs and stuff like that. Basically, like we can't shoot, like we've got people watching us, like from high command. I think the separatists also have something similar in place. So it's a lot different from last year, because last year this was like a really active area. In my company, I think we lost probably about 6 people last year, 2 to snipers, and like 4 guys like that. They came and planted an IED in the trench. But this year we've only like lost 2 guys, and that was just before the ceasefire.
So I do want to come on to how you as a Brit ended up there. But one of the things while we're on the subject is I find so interesting about your social media accounts is like the kind of, like you're saying there, they came over and planted an IED into a ditch and stuff. It's a very kind of, I hate to use the word interesting, but it is interesting. The kind of warfare you're talking about, drones dropping grenades. Can you tell us about the kind of threats that you come across out there?
Yeah. So basically, because of the unique situation that's here, like you've got the Russian-backed separatists, like they declared themselves independent from Ukraine, like back in 2014. I mean, on base level, like I'd say there's locals there, like probably pro-Russians and all that, but like there's a lot of it that's like heavily like financed and like heavily trained by like the Russians themselves. And like if it's not the locals, like it's most likely like Russians like are coming over to train. Like we know for sure that they send their sniper groups over here to like do training, but we haven't had any contact with them. And then the other big threat you've got as well is artillery and mortars. From what I've seen when I've been in different areas and from speaking to other people, like other friends that have been on the other parts of the front, like in more hot zones, like more closer to Holavka, they have a lot of heavy artillery that's basically like really like spot on. Like if it's spot on, like straight away it's like Russian fucking artillery teams.
Right. And presumably these guys that are appearing in your own lines, is the guess that these guys are Spetsnaz and those kind of operatives?
Yeah, there is quite a lot. Like it depends what's going on. Like sometimes, like one of the positions that was like close to us, they spotted on the thermals a group of they spotted like a group of people, probably reconnaissance. And the way they came in, like none of us had spotted them. They were trying to get behind our position. Luckily, they got spotted. But the majority of the time, it is most likely like Russian Spetsnaz or FSB or stuff like that, because you can really tell the difference between the locals and the Russians. Like I just said with the artillery. you can tell who the professionals are and who the less trained people are.
Yeah, I'm sure any veterans listening to this will get that. It's almost like for people listening that haven't been in the military, it's the difference between watching your local pub league kick a football around and watching the Premier League. It's about like
Example.
Yeah, it's the grace of movement and everything, isn't it? It's like how slick these guys move. Like when you see a group of people that doesn't know what they're doing, people will be running back and forth quite a lot. You'll see a lot of shaking arms and all this kind of thing. It's just something intuitive that you'll notice. One of the things that you put out, dude, is that really scared the shit out of me was the mines that they drop that then pop out and deploy tripwires. Yeah, tell us a bit about those.
I had no idea about these before I came to Ukraine. Before I was in Syria, I had no idea. I'd never heard of these things. Even I've been in the military here for about 2 years now. And on my last deployment with my old battalion, I didn't know they exist until I came to this area. And then so what happened was last year, we was just a normal day, normal night, and we woke up a drone was hovering above our trench. It was literally right above our trench, we couldn't go outside. So the next morning, one of the guys from the reconnaissance unit, they called through on their field telephone, and they basically said they found a POM 2. It's basically it's like a small capsule mine. You're normally supposed to drop it from airplanes or trucks and stuff like that. But what they've done is they've modified the DJI Phantom drones, so that basically what they can do with that is they can basically hover above a position and drop this mine, which sets itself up, and it sends out all these little trip wires. It's a bit of a bad one if you don't see it, because it will most likely kill you if you're within the radius of it.
And it's like a bouncing Betty kind of mine, then, is it?
Sort of. I've never seen it detonate. I've only ever seen it once, just not activated or anything like that. But basically, I think it sends out 8 trip wires, in different directions. So if you don't see it, or if it lands anywhere near you, you're gonna be a bit in a shitter if you can't get an exit route through it.
Are mines quite common out there?
It's any veteran will know. In the Middle East, IEDs are a big threat. They're everywhere. But here, it's crazy because they're literally you. Outside the trench, you could be standing 10 meters from a mine. You wouldn't even know where they are. They're so good at hiding the mines here. Most of the time, you won't even know whereabouts they are on a position.
Yeah, sounds fucking honky, mate. I want to go back to the Syria thing. Then, because obviously it's not every day someone just turns up in Syria. So, I'm going to give you some broad questions because I know that there's some things you might not be able to talk about, or whatever. So, as far as you're able to, can you give us the story about how our British chap came to end up being in Syria?
So basically, back in I think it was 2014. I'd been following the conflict with Syria for since the beginning of the civil war there. And eventually, when ISIS started getting bigger, and they started carrying out these terrorist attacks in all over the world, and then they started doing the beheadings of the journalists, and then the genocide of the Yazidis. There's a part of me before I went to Syria, I'm not ex-military or anything like that. I was just a civilian. So I was really frustrated with the way that basically our governments had let ISIS gain so much power and do the things that they did, when after a few years before, we'd literally we're still in Iraq a few years before it happened, but we pulled out too soon, and all this stuff people died for, all the peace that they longed for, it was basically all for nothing in my eyes, because they let ISIS get the power they got.
Yeah, I'd agree. So when you saw, say, British troops in Afghanistan, British troops in Iraq, were you tempted to join the army at that point? Was it something you ever thought about?
For Syria, I had no interest whatsoever in military or anything like that. I had actually, in fact, wanted to join the police service, but I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it was the journalist. Can't remember his name now. There was a journalist who got beheaded, and then when the Yazidi genocide happened, that's like when I literally just said to myself, like, I can either continue complaining about this, like getting annoyed and all that stuff, or I can at least go out there and say I did something.
So what was the reasoning behind joining the police? Is it that same kind of, was it like a sense of service that you had that you wanted to, that, you know, is that what kind of led you to, from the police and then to Syria?
Yeah, originally I always wanted to join the police because like I wanted to like do something for my community and whatnot, but like I never got the chance to do that because of what happened with like the ISIS terrorist attacks and like just everything that followed with that. And then I like just one day, like I just saw on Facebook like an article about like international volunteers going out to Syria, fighting against ISIS with like the Kurds. I didn't really know much about the Kurds, but like I did a bit of research, and they weren't terroristy like other like groups that I'd seen.
And did you know anybody yourself that was out there?
No, no one whatsoever, apart from like the people I'd seen on like the internet.
So, without obviously like anything that like you don't want to talk about, how does somebody go from the UK to ending up fighting with the Peshmerga?
Well, back then it was like super easy, like super simple. Like it's like, it sounds crazy, but like literally all it took for me to go out there was looking through Google, like on like articles, like for information, and then just literally going onto Facebook and finding the group. All I did was I messaged them. I was like, hey. I did like a huge paragraph about like why I want to come join, and then they gave me instructions on like what to do and like what to prepare and like to make a decision, like because I could die out there and all that stuff. And then once I'd done that, I was like, yes, this is my final decision. Like I want to come out there. They gave me instructions like where to fly to, so I ended up like flying to northern Iraq to Kurdistan region. And literally all I was going by was the contact number that they gave me for the handler who would take me to a safe house before being smuggled into Syria.
So how did that go down with the family and friends?
I only really told my mother about it because like I hate like hiding like stuff from my mother. I told her like why I was going out there. She didn't want me to go out there, but at the same time like she didn't want to like stop me from like doing something I wanted to do.
Right. There
was a part of me like now when I think back to it, I was like something bad could have happened. Like it could have gone so bad, like so easily. Like the people I was meeting at the airport, and then she would have been in a worse position. But she was convinced it was my decision. Like I had to convince her I wasn't going out there to join ISIS because like that was probably the first thing she like thought about. So I did a lot of convincing, and she didn't want me to go. Like, which there wasn't really anything she could do because either way I would be going anyway.
What were you more worried about? Was it battle, or were you more worried about the kind of stage of getting from the airport to battle?
I'd say worried about how I'm going to react, because like when I was going out there, like I had no training whatsoever. It's not like when you join the British Army or anything, like you get trained for this stuff. Like you're like beasted and like ragged through it. Like you're trained to kill and all that stuff. Like the first worry I had was landing there, hoping the guys that's meant to be picking me up is not ISIS. And then once I got into Syria, we did like a week's worth of like weapon familiarization. I won't call it training. And then like literally a week's worth of training, and then they sent us to the front line, which sums it up.
Wow.
But yeah, I thought when we were originally going to the front, when they told us like you'll be going to the front now, like it was just like all I kept thinking about was like how am I going to react? Like I hope I don't get scared. Like I don't freak out or anything like that, because that would be the worst thing. Like I knew what I was there for. Like that's why I just kept telling myself like I'm here to do a job that I fucking like feel and believe the cause for. And when it did come to it, like the adrenaline was like pumping and whatnot, but I didn't freak out as I feared I would.
So what how did it work in terms of organisation? And because obviously there's a language barrier. What did they put you in with other Europeans, or how did all that work?
So basically what happens was when you land in Sulaymaniyah in Iraq, you go to the safe house, and because they're handling all the Westerners that come to Syria, like there's already like a couple of like English speakers there. Like when I got there was a couple of Brits, like a couple of Americans, and like you normally buddy up with someone that's who you're going to be getting smuggled into Syria with. So like you're not completely isolated. And then there is like one or two Kurds that may speak English. We had a French Kurd that spoke English. So it wasn't all too bad. But then once you get to Syria, you get to the Westerner Academy, as they call it. And basically what they do there is they give you very basic Kurdish lessons. Like you're expected to learn Kurdish in a week, basically. And then they just basically send you on your way. I mean, with me, when it comes to learning languages, like I'm terrible. Like if you give me like if I went to school and like tried to learn a language, I'd just do terrible. But if you put me like in it, where I have to like learn it, where I know I need to learn it, like I'll start learning it. Like I learned Kurdish to like a pretty good level, like to get a conversation across. And like with Ukraine, like I understand Russian quite like pretty good. I can use like field telephone, I can use radio. I understand the message. My biggest problem is pronunciation. But apart from that, like I can learn a lot of the language by ear pretty easily.
So what about these other guys that you were with? Did you come across any ex-military guys at all, like British Army ones?
Back in 2015, there was a hell of a lot of ex-military guys. Quite a lot of American ex-military and some ex-British military. And me, like coming from a civilian background, like when you meet these guys, like you kind of stick to them. Like, and I think I'd speak for every other guy that was out there that was a civilian beforehand, because like the information that these guys hold is the information that's going to be saving your life and maybe saving the lives of others around you. There's a lot of guys out there like that really knew what they were talking about, and then you would have some guys that were just probably Walter Mitty's and stuff like that.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about Walter Mitty's because I find this super fucking fascinating, because I really enjoyed your posts that you've been making about this. Can you tell us about some of these characters that, like, because I just gotta say, it blows my mind that these people will like turn up bullshitting on the other side of the planet where there's like I'm just gonna let you run with it, dude, because this stuff just blows my mind.
Yeah, so the biggest thing about I'll speak for Ukraine as well. Like going to war zones like this, like without like not going like in an official capacity, like you're gonna like bump into like people, and if you're not ex-military or like if you're not a part of the military from where they're from, like you won't really know straight away. And especially me, because I'm a civilian, like I wouldn't know like how to spot a Walter Mitty like beforehand. And like I think the fucking stupidest one I ever met was the one I covered in one of my podcasts, Anthony Delgado. Like he turned up. He was an American that turned up. In the beginning, he was all right. I didn't really like catch anything off him because I wasn't ex-military like in America or anything like that. But then like he started like doing things that were like really weird that I like picked up on. Like I think one of the biggest like red flags for me was when we got sent to a unit with him. We're in a heavy weapons unit, and I'm like translating for him with the commander. And the commander's like asking him like, oh, ex-American military, like maybe you can teach us some stuff. And like I'm translating this, and then he asked me like, so what weapon systems like do you know? And this guy, he turns around, he's like saying to him like, oh, I can use the 50 cal. So like when I translate that, like the Kurdish commander, he's like, oh, we have a 50 cal, but we don't know how to use it. Like, can you teach us? And so like he's like, oh yeah, I can teach you. Just get me the 50 cal, I'll show you how to use it. And literally the Kurdish commander, he turned around and he said, okay, we've got a 50 cal in the next room, like we'll bring it in. He brought it in, and this guy didn't have a clue on what to do with it. And it turned into actually having one of our other guys, he's ex-British Army, who had to like teach him how to use the 50 cal, which was like a huge embarrassment to me because I was translating for him. And it just goes to show like the kind of people that you meet there. Like people will give you information that you think is true, and it turns out just to be like crap. And it's a real danger to the guys out there that don't like pick up on these guys, because like they could give you information, like medical information, that would be completely wrong, and you would end up either killing someone or killing yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point, dude. I hadn't even thought about that kind of aspect of it because it's obviously, you get like, say, a trained soldier coming in who's like, right, this is the way we clear a room or this is the way to cover open ground or, those kind of lessons. And if someone comes in and was like, oh, yeah, I was in the SAS for 4 years, you're going to listen. If you've never done anything before, you're going to listen to what he's got to say. And it could be absolute nonsense that gets everyone killed.
I think that's one of the other biggest things as well. Like, that's what we've got like a saying in Syria. So basically the guys that would come, like if they would say they're like obviously if they say they're SAS, like they're complete bullshit. And then you'd get the American guys that would come over. We had one guy, he said he was a ranger, and from the start, like we kind of knew it was bullshit because like he didn't really have a clue on anything. So we came with a term for those guys, like Power Rangers, basically.
Love it.
So literally, whenever like anyone would whenever we're in a conversation with like a new person, they say they're ex-military, and they start talking about, oh, I'm a ranger, like I'm ranger tabbed and stuff like that. Like we start raising our eyebrows and like start asking them questions. Because what we had to do is the guys that did know this stuff, we just basically asked them like, how can we like spot these guys? And they just told us like basic things that like every like ranger should know, like this Power Ranger guy, he didn't even know the Ranger code, which every Ranger should know off by heart. It's just like stuff like that you have to like put up with. And it was like I said, it's like it's not the fact that they say it; it's the fact that it can get someone killed. That pisses everyone off.
Yeah, that's bonkers. But do you think maybe like the only way that I can kind of get my head around what these guys do is to think that they must be mentally, like they're mentally fucked up in some way. They're not there. They haven't got like a full fucking functioning brain.
There has been a few guys I met, like you can tell like there's like something not right with them. But then there's some guys like they've got some sort of ego about it. Like they're not there for like that Anthony Delgado guy. Like he wasn't there because he wanted to like fight and defend like the people against ISIS. Like he was there solely for himself. Like whenever you'd see him like doing a video, like it was like really narcissistic, like sort of like commentary, or just the way he handled himself with the camera. It was really cringy.
I found in Iraq, not so much in Afghanistan, but I definitely found in Iraq that a lot of guys in my first unit, I think, were there to get photos and say that they went to Iraq. Did you come across that kind of war tourism?
Yeah, so back in 2015, like the Westerners had a lot of freedom. Like when I turned up, like just a month before, you could literally say like what weapon you wanted. Like guys would ask for like an M16, they would get an M16. If they wanted a PKM, they would get a PKM. And then you'd get these guys that would come over like on so-called holiday to only take photos, just so they can like put it on Facebook or whatever. And they would never go into combat or anything, but
wow.
They would take the photos and they'd go back and tell people like, oh, I was fighting ISIS, like it was crazy, stuff like that. And then in 2016, the Kurds like clamped down on it because to smuggle someone into Syria, like it cost the Kurds like a lot of money, obviously. So basically, they started enforcing these like more stricter rules. So you had to come for like a 6-month like limit, and then once the 6 months was over, like they would pay for your flight home or whatever. But like a lot more restrictions came in place for Westerners, so like there wasn't as much freedom per se. But it was mainly down to these like so-called internet warriors.
And what percentage of guys coming over would you say, well, what percentage wanted to get in a fight and what percentage were there to just kind of like, for their own ego?
I'd say quite like 70%. Like the guys that came over for their own ego, they're sort of a minority. Like,
okay.
I think in total, like the amount of guys that I met like that, there's probably about 14 guys like with that sort of like mindset that I met. Well, apart from like everyone else I met, like they were all there like for the like reasons that they said they were there for, which was to like fight against ISIS and defend the people of the country against them and whatnot.
So let's talk a bit about the fighting then. What was your first taste of combat like?
Well, my first taste when I first got sent to the front, we got sent to a static position. just south of Tel Hamis. It was just a static like frontline position. There was no operation going on at the time, and ISIS were about probably a kilometer away, 2 kilometers away, and you could see their positions. And literally all it wasn't like anything like heavy. It was just literally Dushka fire, Dishika, like which is like the 12 millimeter machine gun, and it would just be that, maybe with the odd mortar like now and again. I wouldn't really like call it like heavy or anything, but it did make me like make the decision like, is this what I want? And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. I didn't get any real combat until I first went to the Tel Abyad operation, which is on the border with Turkey. That was like a couple of months after that.
And what was that then?
So basically, Tel Abyad's a city. It's on the border with Turkey, and the Kurdish forces from the city of Kobani were pushing east towards to this city, and our forces, which was the other canton, were pushing west towards them because they wanted to link the cantons up. So there would be more logistical routes and whatnot, and it'd be more safe here, obviously. And basically what we did, we surrounded the city. We were on the outskirts, like I think it was like 100 or 200 meters. There was like a bridge that we had to take. There was a couple of ISIS dudes there just chilling. They wouldn't let us pass, obviously. But like, literally we spent like the whole day like just shooting like back and forth with the Dushka. Like they brought the tank up to shoot at them, and then we tried to storm the position, which was like, when I think back to it, like pretty suicidal. Like they like sent us in this like Mad Max bulldozer that they converted into like an APC. So we attempted like get closer to them, and then we just realized, well, the driver realized it wouldn't be possible, so we pulled back, and we just ended up calling coordinates on their position and just letting the Air Force take care of them.
Was that so the American Air Force, presumably?
Yeah, as far as I know, I think it was Americans that did that one, but sometimes it was the French as well. But for that operation, there was quite a lot of like airstrikes. So I think it was the Americans, because I didn't really see much French like around that time.
Do you see a lot of American air power out there?
Yeah, especially towards 2017 when I was on the TABCO operation. Basically what they did was, TABCO was like a city. It was on the other side of the Lake Al-Azad, and there was no way to get to it. Like it was all like cut off, like it was all ISIS territory. And basically the Americans like said to the Kurds, like, look, if you attack this place, we can take the dam and we'll help you. And what they did was they used some ospreys and transported the Kurds like across the lake. And then there was also a marine unit. So, well, you could call it that somewhat, where they just got a bunch of boats together and just stormed the beaches of Tabqa. And they just basically demolished like everything in sight. Like you had the AC-130s like just gunning everything. You had the A-10s. And then you had like the Americans like providing artillery support, which was like pretty cool to see. It was literally like ISIS got pounded so much over there, and like especially on the Raqqa like offensive as well. Like, I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen the photos of Raqqa now. Like it literally looks like Stalingrad. And
that's all from American air power and artillery.
Yeah. When we're over there, basically the Americans, they had like a sort of a link between the Kurds and themselves. So they let the Kurds like pick the positions where they want to like call in like airstrike support or stuff like that, and they would send the coordinates to the Americans, and then they like maybe 10 minutes later like an airstrike would come in and demolish whatever's there.
So you went over there, Johnny, obviously to take on ISIS. What was it like when you kind of like, I'm presuming you came across some bodies and stuff like that out there, and you saw your enemy for the first time kind of up close, or maybe you saw some prisoners. What was that like, coming face to face with these people that had kind of pulled you from the UK and brought you to Syria?
I think the first time I ever saw a body was the Tel Abyad operation, and it was those guys that we were fighting on the bridge. Like after we'd called in the airstrike, like it literally just like demolished all of them. Like there was limbs everywhere. Like all sorts of body parts like scattered. And like once we like took the position and like the front had moved forward a bit, like we went over to like have a look at them, and it was like really weird. Like after seeing all these videos and like propaganda like pictures and stuff of these like people that say like they're gonna chop our heads off and stuff like that, and then you just see them like laying there. It was like really weird. Like you didn't feel you didn't feel bad for them, but like there was like some sort of some sort of empathy for them. Like this is what their like life led to. Like it could have led to something else, but like this is where their body is now.
Yeah, because you know what's weird is like you got called out there, but you had a call in to go out there, but a lot of their foreign fighters, they had a call in too. Now you can say that it was the wrong call in, but like the actual mechanism of emotions that drew them out there was the same as what drew you.
And I'd say a lot of people would agree with that. Like I'd say it's all down to like moral like principles. Like a lot of the guys, like a lot of the prisoners I met, like I encountered quite a few prisoners, especially on the Tabqa operation. Like I must have met like 30 like local ISIS prisoners. And like the difference between like meeting the local ISIS like fighters and the foreign fighters, like the locals, like they're doing it because like they've got nothing to go for, like literally that's their only source of income, something like that. But like the foreign ISIS members that we'd seen, like they were so like ideologically like motivated, like they had no sympathy or anything for like the actions that they'd done or like the actions that the organization had done. And the only time like I'd seen like they actually had anything like that was like some of the guys that were like scared because they got captured and it was over for them. Whereas I think like a lot, like if like the foreign like volunteers that went over got captured, like there wouldn't be any of the like you should all still die or stuff like that. Like look at the jihadi Beatles group in one of their interviews. They like showed no remorse or anything like that, and they still think the way that they preached before.
What do you think should happen to prisoners like that?
I would say like rehabilitate them in a sense, like send them back to Britain to like face justice. But like knowing the Western justice system, like they would end up like getting off eventually. If it was me, like I think they should just like rot in prison. Like in Syria, like we should give the funding to like make these people rot there. The crimes that these people have like taken part in, like witnessed, like quite horrific. And one of the biggest things I saw over there, like really, I wouldn't say it disturbed me, but it really made me feel like sick, like just knowing it happened. Just after we'd taken the city of Tel Aviv, we pushed down south into the desert, into some of the villages, and we're going along the highway in one of the vehicles, and one of the locals like stopped us when we were asking for like directions to the nearest shop, and our Kurdish like guy that was with us, like he got speaking with him in Arabic, and the locals said that there's an execution pit nearby where ISIS like took all the bodies and like executed and just threw them in, and we went over there to have a look at it because it's like it was the first time like we had heard of it, like being near us, like we'd never seen an execution site before. And we ended up going over to it, and it was like a huge canyon, like with a cavern like in the bottom, like it was like super deep. And we got to the edge of it, and you could still see the bodies around the side of it. I remember looking at an article like recently, like they'd gone over there and like they've gone inside it to like try and recover the victims that were in there, and they said there's probably over like 200 people that were like thrown in there. And like it shocked me when I was like seeing it for the first time, because like that's when you know like these people, like they're proper like evil people.
So you felt vindicated in your decision?
Yeah. And going back to like the prisoners that I was talking about, like the local prisoners, like when I was there, like I felt bad for the locals, but like whenever I met the foreigners, like they didn't have any remorse whatsoever. Like they just wouldn't cooperate or anything like that. With the locals, like I'd made sure I was making sure, because it is Syria. Like I was worried like about like maybe like mistreatment of like prisoners and stuff like that. especially with them being locals, I understood like why they were doing it, like to some degree. So I'd always make sure they had like water, and I even like went out of my way to like get some Nutella for them. But like with the foreigners, like they had no interest whatsoever in speaking, or like any remorse whatsoever.
Yeah, that seems to be the problem, doesn't it? Because it's like, look, at the end of the day, as much as a nice idea is that you could rehabilitate all these people, if just one of them doesn't rehabilitate and then carries out an attack, as you say, because they get off through the British justice system, well, like at the end of the day, like they made the decision to go out there. You know, safest thing for everybody is that they don't get to come out and walk the streets again. But I think it says a good thing about you, though, that you have the empathy to, because I think it's important that people realize there's a big difference between someone that's just caught up in events and has no choice over what they, because like a lot of their fighters, presumably the choice was you get executed or you fight.
Yeah, that's pretty much it basically. There was a family I met on the Jeddah operation. Just after like we pushed forward, like the locals like started coming back, and we met this. I think they were an Alawite family. Like they weren't persecuted against per se, but like they had a lot of restrictions like set against them by ISIS.
Right. And
the only reason they were allowed to like live there is because they had a big pharmacy shop, and like they were connected to Damascus. So like that's the only reason like ISIS like let them live there. Didn't really bother them too much. And once we like liberated that area, like there was like we had like the grandmas and like the family members crying like that we'd finally like driven them out. And there's the stuff like, especially like the stuff they tell you like about like what they did like when they were there, stuff they'd seen and stuff like that. Like it really makes you feel a lot more like it makes you feel glad that you went out there to see these things for yourself, because like years from now, like when people like probably speak about it barely, you'd be able to at least say like when stuff like that was happening, like I didn't turn my like head away and I actually went out there to like do something.
Do you think that there's a danger that the despicable, like the acts of despicable, the level of it, that people will forget that in the West, and this whole thing will kind of just get conveniently swept under a carpet?
I think that's what will happen. I mean, it's like look in Britain. We have like the look at Lee Rigby, for example. Like that was appalling what happened. But like with the politicians, like it only seems to be brought up like every now and again when there's something to be gained from it. The only people that still like remember that stuff are like the victim's family and like the friends and that like remember it. But like the politicians, they only talk about it when they can get something from it.
Yeah, and like what you're saying as well, like that's I think the fact that you felt like necessary to go to Syria because Britain hadn't stepped in. It's definitely something. I think there's a lot of people in position like me that saw Syria happening and was just like, I think I was burnt out from Iraq and Afghanistan and just thought, this is just going to be another situation where I got to be honest, I thought like that they would fuck over people like you who had volunteered to make an example of you, to put people off doing that. And have you experienced anything like that? Have you felt like the British government kind of coming after you for what you've done?
Yeah, I'd say in a way. I mean, when I first came back, they arrested me. Like when I landed like back home, like I flew in and like the armed police came onto the plane and like arrested me under like Section 7 of the Terrorism Act. And then when they took me to the police station, like they had me like in interviews, like they basically said like I was planning to commit acts of terror against the Islamic State.
What?
And just I couldn't say anything throughout the whole interview because my lawyer was telling me to go no comment with it. But like the questions they asked me, like it was like super stupid. And I think in a way it was to deter other people, but at the same time, like you could help them with so much like information. Like when I first came back, one of my friends, he'd found a video camera in one of the foreign fighters' houses. It didn't work, but we figured that there might be something on there that they can use or like find. And I remember when I got back to North Iraq, like after we got back over the border, and I got in contact with the British consulate. I went to go for a meeting there because I'd lost my passport, so I had to get that sorted anyway. And I said to them, look, I've got some like ISIS documents and stuff with like names on it, like passport, like photos, and then a video camera. Like, I want to give it to you guys because you guys can do something with it. Like, there might be something on there that like might be useful to you guys. And they literally turned around to me and said, like, no, I'm afraid we can't take it. And I was like, okay. So I went back. I didn't want to get caught with that because, like, if I got caught with that, like, sort of stuff, like in North Iraq, like, I would be so fucked. So basically, what I did was I went and I tried to destroy as much of it as I could, and then just threw it in the bin. And then literally a day later, like, they emailed me and they were like, "Hey, do you still have that stuff? We can get one of our guys to pick it up." And I was like, "You serious? Like, you guys are so disorganized."
That's mental, mate. What are the kind of lessons that you learn? Because it's really interesting to have somebody that's basically learning on the job as a soldier. Well, I'll take that back. Everyone learns on the job as a soldier. But to be fair to the British Army, one of the things they do really well is preparing you to go on tour. So you were learning on the job. What are a few of the things that you learn about combat, which you can pass on to listeners?
Yeah, that's a good question because like it is intriguing. Like when I think about it, like looking at myself, like Syria and all that beforehand. I think the biggest thing I learned, like I never really thought about it beforehand, but the biggest thing I learned from like combat is like patience. Like not like reacting to something straight away. Like now I know about it, but like reaction to contact and all that. Like if you're under like effective enemy fire, like that's when you should like respond. Like if not, like carry on. Stuff like that, and especially with the mine stuff like that. I didn't know anything about that. Like when I went there, like people like taught me, and then I just learned through like mistakes and stuff like that. Like stuff that like keeps me safe, and also like to be extra vigilant. Like if something seems weird, like it probably is weird. And I think the car bombs were a big one as well. That was something I went in like not really like thinking about at first, but when I had my first car bomb, that was the biggest lesson I had. Like always expect the unexpected. As cheesy as it sounds, like that day we didn't expect to be hit by a car bomb. It was like it wouldn't sound normal to other people, but like for us, like it was a normal day. But like it was just like the way it happened, it just unfolded. It was just so unexpected. Like I'd say it's stuff like that. Like never get complacent, which is like the biggest lesson I've had. I had a big lesson in that like last year on the front in this area. Basically, like I think it was like, well, it was literally just as we were like preparing to like leave the front, so we're like taking like stuff back from our position to go get picked up and like put into storage, ready to be transported. And there's a little area where the separatists have really good vision on our route in like into the position and out. And we'd been there, like I'd been on the front for like 9 months at that time. So like by that time I was like tired, I was exhausted. And because there was a ceasefire, so to speak, it wasn't as heavy. Like we kind of like started getting complacent, and I look back to it, it was the stupidest mistake I've ever done. We ended up taking one of the wood burners. It's like super heavy, so it needs 2 people. So we had to carry it from the position, which like it just sucked arse. So we had to carry it, and we're walking up this hill, and it's the one spot where the separatists can see us. And the entire like 4 months we've been in this position, they've never once like shot at us or done anything when we've been going up there. And we'd always said to each other, like, one of these days they're gonna like shoot at us, like jokingly. And like you know how it is, like when you get towards the end of like a deployment, like you start like thinking about home more and stuff like that. And basically we got like halfway up the hill and we were like basically fucked. So I was like, okay, let's just take a quick stop and change hands. And like no sooner like than I'd walked around to like swap hands, like one of the guys was like stopped, and then we heard like in the distance like something being fired, and it didn't click with me at the time. And then Then all of a sudden we got fucking hit by a fucking recoilless rifle. Luckily it didn't hit us directly, but it was like 50 meters away from us. It just hit the trees. Like we shit ourselves, and it was such a bad like time that was, because it's the stupidest thing I've ever done. Like in the entire time I've like been out here, and in Syria, like I mean in Syria we didn't wear body armor, we didn't wear helmets, but like here you have to wear it because of the IDF threat, and because we basically monged it like on this like exit to carry this heavy equipment. We didn't have our body armor with us. We only had our like weapons and ammunition and shit. And it was the one time, like it was like one of those stories like you tell people like it's always going to happen when you don't expect it to happen. And it did happen when we didn't expect it to happen. It was the one time we decided like, okay, let's not wear our body armor or kit like for this, because like it would just make it a hell of a lot easier. And that one time we decided to do that, we ended up getting hit by a SPG. So I think that was the biggest lesson I learned out here.
Yeah, fatigue, mate. Fatigue will do that to people. Fatigue and, like you say, complacency. That's something you might find interesting. My granddad was on bomber crews in the war, and he told me that what the Germans would do quite often is they'd wait until you were coming back over the channel. They'd literally they'd follow at a distance, because they knew that crews once they started seeing Britain pop up in front of them would be relaxing, because you think they'd done it, and that's when they'd attack, because a lot of people had switched off. And my granddad got shot down that way. And something that any young soldier listening to this, or any aspiring soldier, your patrol or whatever isn't over until it's over. That last stretch is often the most dangerous, because everybody knows, if you're especially in counterinsurgency and stuff, people know that that's when you're going to be at your least. Like when you go out the gate and you're just starting your patrol, you're on max fucking alert. But then 3-4 hours later, a 50-degree heat. Actually, you know what? How did you find the heat? Because I'm just thinking, you went into Syria. You know, you didn't have pre-deployment training or anything. How did you deal with the heat out there?
I went out there. I mean, I knew it was going to be hot. Like it was like Iraq. Like I knew like straight away like the heat it was going to be. It was like deserts, all that sort of stuff. And when I went out there, like I was a fat bastard. Like I was huge. I hadn't trained anything for it, so I went out there. I must have been about 18 stone, and like eventually,
fucking hell, no way.
By the time I left, I think I was about 15 stone, just from the heat alone and the diet you have over there.
How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot.
Oh, okay, so you got decent height. I was gonna say, because you don't look 18 stone in your pictures, or you're not posting those ones.
I've got one photo from like when I first went there, and like I'm pretty big on that photo. It's like one of those photos like, yeah, if I die, don't ever post this.
Yeah. Did you have a photo picked out that you told people to use if you died?
Yeah, I actually had a few. I was like, so basically when you go out there, like they come around and take this. We always had a saying like, you knew when you were about to go on an operation where you may die, because the media team would come round and they'll take your martyr photo. Like you basically just have to like make a photo, like, and they say like, oh, we're going to use this if you die. So we always said like, once those guys come round, it means we're going to go on an operation. So
they do that in the British Army too, mate.
So what I'd end up doing is I would like say to the girl with the camera, I'd be like, can we take that one again? I don't look my best in it. And I was like, if I'm going to die, I want to look my best when people see me.
Your most martyry.
Yeah.
No, they do the same thing, mate. So like anyone young listening out there now, if a fucking photographer comes around and you're going on an op, then pack some extra ammunition, because it's probably going to get punchy.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like you always want to look your best, like for a photo that you hope you're never going to like. Well, you won't use it, but you hope they're never going to use. And I had one friend he got killed over there, and the photo he had, it was the most hideous photo. I mean, it's quite a good-looking chap in person, but the photo they used for it, like, it was hideous.
It's a weird one, though, isn't it? Because, like you said, you're not going to be around for it, but the fact is, it does bother you.
Yeah. You'd think, like, why should I care? I'm going to be dead. But, like, there's a part of me, like, do I really want to be remembered as the guy with the monobrow, or do I want to be remembered as a guy that like, looks good-looking?
And also, you don't want to be like, if there is an afterlife, I don't want to be like a ghost and then just seeing that disgusting picture of you plastered on the front of the Sun. So, mate, like when you left Syria, then how did you get from Syria to Ukraine?
Basically, when I left Syria the first time, I went through the stuff with the police. After I think I was on 8 months on pre-charge bail, so I was never charged or convicted. They eventually dropped the terrorism stuff because they had nothing to go on. They had no evidence to say I was doing terrorist stuff, obviously. So as soon as my bail was dropped, they gave me my passport back, and a week later I was back in Syria.
Right.
And then I was there for 7 months again, and then I went back home. I got arrested again under terrorism, Section 7. I was on bail for 4 months this time, and then they eventually dropped it and gave my passport back. And in between that time, I was living in London, and I was working in warehousing. I switched from a few jobs, and I'm sure a lot of the veterans will understand, because you always see about it, always see about the help for British soldiers and all that, struggling after they leave the service because they're institutionalized, or they've seen stuff and stuff like that. And after being to Syria, I couldn't adjust to getting back to a normal life again. I was working in some card shop, and it just stuck with me every day. I'd just be stood there at cashier till, just doing stuff for people, and literally 24/7. I would just think about Syria, or just think about stuff that happened, and eventually I just couldn't cope with it anymore. I said to myself, I need to get back to something. If I don't get back to something, I don't know how I'm going to cope. So when I was in Syria, I had a friend, he'd been to Ukraine previously, and in the beginning of the Ukrainian conflict, I thought I supported the separatists because I thought they were the good guys at the time. And I met this guy in Syria, and he swayed my views into becoming pro-Ukrainian. He told me a lot of the stuff the separatists put out there, it's just bullshit. And when I did come out here, I was so put back by how much the media gets wrong about Ukraine, especially the pro-Russians. I mean, it's propaganda, but there's a lot of stuff they put out there, back before I went to Ukraine, when I thought of Ukraine, I thought it was full of neo-Nazis and fascists and stuff like that. And when I came out here, it's not the case at all. I mean, yeah, there's nationalists and stuff like that. I mean, Azov Battalion, back in the day, there was quite a lot of far right, you could say far right extremists that were in Azov Battalion. But I know a few people there now, and there's actually quite a lot of normal people. The government's got it under its control now. It's in the National Guard, and this whole image of Ukraine being super neo-Nazi baby eater killers and all that stuff, it's just totally the opposite to a degree. And especially once I joined the military here, I was quite surprised how mixed everything is. I mean it's still there's still a lot of racial tension with regards to colored people and all that, because it is an ex-Soviet state, so you've kind of got to give it some sort of leeway because of its past history with the Soviet Union and its restriction on immigration and all that. So it is still kind of a new thing for them. But I was my old battalion, we had a company medic, and he was openly Jewish, and it was the thing that surprised me the most, because when you hear about Ukraine, you always hear about how it's anti-Semitic and stuff like that. The guys had no problem with that. There was one guy, he was anarchist. He had an anarchist tattoo on him. You'd never hear any derogatory comments about the medic or anything like that, and it surprised me a lot. And it's what made me open my eyes more to when it came to dealing with media and stuff like that.
Yeah, from what I understand, basically Ukraine was on its way to becoming a good democracy, and obviously Russia weren't too happy about that, so they have this little invention of these separatists and send over the little green men, and obviously like a lot of it was about taking Odessa and having a port to, because they already had like the what would you like an agreement to kind of like have those Black Sea ports, but it seems very quite clear that it was a Russian fucking power move.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is like. I've got so many friends. They were all like I know a lot of people that were at Maidan from the very start, like before it like turned violent, and it was all to do with the former president. Like he reversed the EU deal that they had going on, and he wanted to get closer to Russia, and like the people didn't want that. Like they'd been promised like to get closer to the EU, and they basically just like went against what the people wanted, and they refused to stop protesting. It's just a bit similar to like what's going on in Belarus at the moment. Like you've got all these people protesting against like the leader's decision. But yeah, like it eventually like turned violent, and I was like speaking to one of my friends. Like he was there. He was there like when they started shooting, and he said it was like the craziest like thing that like he's ever seen, and he's been to the ATO and whatnot. And they just started like shooting the protesters, like just like you could be anyone, like you could be a child or anything like that. Like they didn't care. They were just doing what the authority wanted them to do. So they're just like gunning down just random people that oppose the idea of being with Russia.
I can remember when the Ukraine thing happened. When I was away at the time, I was working as private security with a few other guys, a few other veterans. And all of us kind of like, we thought, in a way, it felt almost like a ISIS kind of like an example of what was going on with ISIS, but within Europe, in the sense of this authoritarian, like you said, like a total disregard for life, a total disregard for people's wishes. And I got to be honest, like I was amazed that it was. I mean, it's obvious why it was allowed to slide, because nobody wants to go up against Russia. It's a war that the West can win, but it's not a war that anybody wants. So it was kind of allowed to happen. But it was. It just seems to come from that same well of there's a few people saying this is how it's going to be. We're not listening to you, and if you dare stand up against us, then we're going to kill you in the streets.
Yeah, that was pretty basically like what happened. And then after he was like forced to like flee, like once the situation started getting out of hand, the ex-president, like he fled like to Russia like via helicopter, and that's when the people started taking power. But like while this was going on, like the ex-president, he had some agreement or something with Russia, like it's just like get me out of here, I'll give you Crimea, and basically that's what happened. Like my battalion at the moment, they were in Crimea when Russia invaded, and the commands, because of what had happened, the whole government was so disorganized after like you didn't know who was in charge, like who the commands were. So like when these little green men started appearing, like everyone knew they were Russians, but like they couldn't do anything because they asked for like, what do we do, like to Kiev, like we're being invaded, like what do we do? Can we defend ourselves? And like there was like no answer from Kiev whatsoever. And a lot of like the naval commanders at the time that were in like Crimea, a lot of them defected to the Russian side, because obviously like they were like Russians themselves, like with the history of the region, like back to like when Stalin did the relocation programs and stuff like that. So there was a lot of family members or like in Russia and stuff like that, and a lot of like Russian sympathies because of it. So yeah, when this all happened, like you had commanders like defecting, you had high command in Kiev like not responding, like to like do we like return fire, do we like what do we do? And majority of what they got told was like don't open fire. Look, like my battalion, they got told to put their weapons into the armory, like so no one was allowed a weapon out.
Wow.
So they were all disarmed, and basically they were defending the base with like sticks and batons. Like
Fucking
Russians
hell, man.
The Russians were outside the gates. I mean, you've seen the videos. There's a video of where they stormed my battalion. They ended up ended up like storming it with one of the APCs. Like they just rode through the perimeter fencing, and then they all like retreated inside to the barracks, and like they covered the windows up, and there was a standoff like for I think it was like a day or two, and then Russian Spetsnaz came in and like just raided the place, flashbanged everyone, like beat them up. There's like a few fights going on between like the commanders. One of the colonels I met out there, he's a pretty cool guy. He was like telling me about like what happened. Like you don't really hear about like the story like after, like in the news about what happened when they entered. And basically like they entered, like they were so like they had a smirk on their face, like basically like what he said, like they knew like this was going to happen. Like they was like, don't worry about it, like we'll take care of it now. And my colonel was telling me about it. He like ended up getting into a fight with one of the Spetsnaz guys. Like they ended up beating the shit out of him, obviously. But they all got taken prisoner, and like after a couple of days, like they were like sent back to Kiev.
Jesus, you know what's a common theme here as well is the reluctance of Western government to get involved in these situations. I mean, Syria and Iraq in general. You know, Iraq, like you said quite rightly, there was a lot of British, American, Iraqi blood spilt in that country, and we left before the job was done, and that allowed ISIS to come up, and then there was a chance to swat them down, but we didn't take it. Same with Syria. There was all these there was Obama's red line and all this kind of stuff, and the same in Ukraine. I mean, I think probably Putin saw what happened with ISIS and realized that, hey, you know what, the West haven't got the stomach for anything at the moment, and then he just went ahead and just bit off a nice big piece of Europe.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing as well. Like you had Syria going on, and you had Libya. Like so, everyone was distracted. Like Ukraine, like when the protests were kicking off, like no one really cared. They maybe report about it like every now and then, or when something big happens, and then it would like just literally disappear from the media. So like Putin knew he could get away with it because like the world was like preoccupied with like Libya, Egypt, and Syria as well.
Yeah, he's the master statesman. And I think this is I think the problem with the West in the last 10 years is, so if you go, actually, let's go back to 9/11. You go back to 9/11, Al-Qaeda attacks America, and as a result of that, rightly or wrongly, America and then its allies basically says, fuck no, you don't get to do that to us. And we went to all these fucking places. Again, you can argue rightly or wrongly, but the fact is, the action was, if you attack us, we're going to come and fuck you up. But over the last decade, we've gone totally the opposite direction. And it's like, you can use chemical weapons against women and children, and we're going to not do anything about it. And you can come into Crimea and take a bite out of I don't think they're a NATO member, are they, Ukraine? But they're certainly NATO. They're a NATO ally, let's say. I mean, I went on exercise to the Ukraine in, I think it was 2001, 2002. So, like it was in like one of these Partnership for Peace exercises. So like they're trying to align themselves with the West. And I think that the message of the last 10 years has been that you can come and take bites out of these things and we won't do anything. And, the problem is like, people in the West assume that people think like people in the West. So they say, well, Russia doesn't want a war. Well, China doesn't want a war. Well, we don't think like these people do, and until you stop them, they will keep fucking going. And Ukraine's not going to be the last place that Russia tries to take. It's looking at Azerbaijan, and we're recording this probably be 2 weeks ahead of when it's released. Who knows what will happen? But it looks like Russia will now insert itself into Azerbaijan and Armenia's dispute, which was probably their intention all along, to be quite honest.
I mean, one of the biggest indicators, like with like Russia's intentions, like you only need to look back to like when the big operations in Ukraine were happening, like in the east. Like a lot of the separatists, like I mean, yeah, they were involved in the fighting, but a lot of the brute force that like got the operations done, like came from like the not the Russian military per se, but like their proxy mercenary group Wagner. And it's basically funded by like the oligarchs in Russia to do the job that Russia doesn't want to be seen tampering with, so they can do it on the sly. So they think, and now like Wagner, like they're in Syria. I mean, they're still in Donbass. They're all over Africa. Like it wouldn't surprise me if they're in Yemen. I mean, they're also in Libya as well. I mean, there's like reports and videos of like Russian-speaking mercenaries over there.
Yeah, it's basically a branch of the Russian military in everything but name, realistically.
Yeah.
People forget as well that fucking Russia, let's just call it as it is, Russia shot down a fucking airline full of civilians over Ukraine. And like everybody just like, nope, nothing to see here. Like, let's just keep moving. I mean, that was an out-and-out attack against civilians of multiple countries, including, the Western powers, and it was just swept under the rug.
I mean, if we looked at it any other way, like let's say like this was some other country in the Middle East, and like this wasn't Russia that was like funding the proxy separatists. Like if that was any other country, like the West would have turned around and like said, like, you guys are terrorists. Like we need to take you guys out because you've just killed a bunch of people.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, mate, is that we attacked the Taliban not because they were sponsoring Al-Qaeda, just because they were harboring them in the country. They wouldn't hand them over. So we attacked Afghanistan. But we let Saudi Arabia, the biggest supporter of Wahhabi terrorists, we let them go. We let them crack on as usual. Let Russia crack on as usual. It's basically, we took out the Taliban because, well, I say tried to take out the Taliban because it looked like an easy target.
Yeah.
But the fact is that there's multiple big states around the world that openly sponsor the people that kill people in the West, and we don't do anything about it.
And I was like saying with a couple of friends, like we're talking about like possible future conflicts, and everything we know from history, like with like countries fighting against countries, like the big countries like America and whatnot, like we're never going to see that again. Like it's literally going to turn into like proxy wars, like because of the countries are too powerful to fight each other. Like it's just going to turn into like little like proxy wars between countries that are like not as powerful and don't have the means to like defend themselves so easily. Yeah, and that's basically like what it's turned into. Like Yemen, for example, like the Iranians like back in one side and the Saudis back in the other, or like Syria, like you've got the Americans back in Kurds, and you got Russians back in the regime, and then you got the Turks back in the FSA.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think we're going to see it in Mexico. Well, we're already seeing it in Mexico to a certain degree. It's good, definitely Africa. But the problem is about these wars is that when you've got two big powers essentially funneling money and arms, it means that, and Syria is a great example of this, that there's no end to the war.
Yeah.
Because when you get two big powers going against each other, it's in no one's interest to continue that war forever. So even the First World War, which was probably the most diabolical war in a lot of sense, and then the Second World War in other ways, like the aim was never to have those wars drag on forever. Both sides was trying to win them as quickly as possible. But now what's happening is these wars is people want nobody cares if I say nobody cares. I'm on about geopolitically. Nobody cares if Syria drags on for another 50 years. But because of the way that they're backed by all these different sides, it's literally there's no end to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say, mate, I can't get this image out of my head of you in a card shop, working a cash register after being in Syria. Like, what? How did you feel coming back home, knowing what was going on in Syria, and presumably, like, seeing really a country that doesn't really care? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was really. It was really frustrating. I mean, I don't want to sound like wimpy or anything. Like when I came back, like no one cared about it, and like I was suffering with issues on my own, like because of stuff that happened over there. I ended up like getting like panic attacks and stuff like that, and that didn't help like with like the constant like 24/7 like thinking, like especially when I still had friends over there. Like I would speak to them like nearly every day. They would tell me like what's going on, and then I would see it on the news. Or like someone would bring it up like when they like see it's me, and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy that went out to fight ISIS and all that crap." And like it was so hard to just like live with that, like knowing like while I'm like stood there in a card shop, like my friends like out there like dying, and there's just people that are in misery. because of what's going on there. And like, I'm just stood there in a card shop, just working a cash register.
Is that hard for you in general now, knowing what's going on? Because obviously, you know, you're very clued up to what's going on around the world. Is it hard for you just in general to know that all of this stuff is happening and that you can't be involved in all these places, and, you know, and that just in general that these things go on?
I'd say yeah, to a degree. I mean, with Syria, like, my motive for going there, like, this is like me like criticizing myself. My motive for going there was because like I wanted, like, I had a really good reason to go there, like, obviously to defend people against ISIS. And like, after all that, like, after I'd been through all that, like, went home and tried to adjust back to a normal life. I couldn't adjust back to a normal life, and just kept thinking about the things that I'd seen, I'd done, my friends, and I figured the only way I'm going to be happy is if I go back and do something similar. And like I said earlier, like, I knew about Ukraine, like, I agreed with what was going on here because, like, I supported Ukraine. And since I came back, like, I've not had any of the panic attacks. I mean, I still get a few night terrors, like, now and again, but like, compared to when I went back, like, the issues of needing to be back in this sort of lifestyle, like, have totally disappeared. And I know why I'm here. Like the reasons I'm here is because of like we were just saying with the proxy wars, like, between Russia and the West. Like, there's good reason to be here, but in a sense, like, I still feel like I'm like chasing a dragon, which sounds really cheesy and cringy, but it's the best way to describe it.
No, it totally makes sense.
And I think the best way to describe it, it's like, people like question, like, okay, yeah, you went to Syria, why Ukraine? Like I just said though, but like, the best way with it is it's a lifestyle. Like, once you adapt to these things and you experience these things, like, everything else just becomes obsolete in a way.
Do you see yourself having a career outside of a military one now?
Every time I think about it, like, I think back to when I was like working in the civvy like street, when I was like in between like Syria, and I think if I was to like leave the military like side of stuff, I was thinking maybe try and get into like private security or something. That, I mean, I hear like the pay shit and all that, but like, it would have to be something like that has some similarity, some sort of structure to it. Something with that sort of like camaraderie, like, like when you're working, like, let's say you work in Tesco, like, no one gives a crap about your colleagues there, or they don't care about anything that's going on in the world. They just care about themselves and making ends meet.
I mean, the fact that you speak Kurdish, you'd have to put that would stand you in good stead in getting a job. There's obviously so much private security up in Kurdistan.
My Kurdish now, like, I mean, I'm sure if I went back there, I'd pick it up. Like, if I try to speak Kurdish now, like, it gets so confusing, I'll start speaking Russian with it. I would say my Russian though is like really good. I think by next year I'll probably be super fluent in it. I mean, I said I can like use like field communications and whatnot and hold a conversation. So I think if I did leave the military side, I'd probably want to get something where I can use the skills that I've learned, like maybe translate or something. Maybe translator for like the NATO countries and stuff, because they have translators over there that work alongside the orbital team that train the Ukrainian military.
Yeah, I'm sure that region's not going to be quiet anytime soon, mate. I want to take it back to Kurdistan for a second, though. Something I forgot to ask you was, it must have been hard on you when the Americans kind of left the Peshmerga to their own to stand on their own 2 feet, and the Turks started the operations. Like, how was that? Well,
for me, when that happened, I knew it was gonna happen sooner or later. Like in 2015, like, it was very rare to see, like, the most you would see of the Americans is maybe the SF like operating there, like doing JTAC and stuff like that. But when I returned in 2017, that's when America like stepped up its game. Like, you would see like convoys of like APCs, like the Marines. You saw like a shit ton of SF. I even met British SF out there as well. They were like cool-ish, a bit grumpy. But when I did leave, there was so much investment by the Americans there. Like they were given so much stuff to the Kurds to get the fight done against ISIS, and then I think I was in. Yeah, it was just before I decided to go back to. It was before I decided to go to Ukraine. They started the invasion on Afrin, and that like really like. I mean, I kind of expected it to happen. Like there wasn't any Americans on that side, so I kind of expected that. But like last year when they invaded like northern Syria, like and into the main lands where the American bases were, the British bases, like the Lafarge like cement plant, which was like a huge like logistical base for like the coalition there. Like they just basically like moved out of the way and just like let them take all this territory that the Kurds like fought and died for. Like and I don't know. I mean, some people disagree. They did the job that the West should have done a long time ago when they went into Iraq and didn't finish the job that they went in there to do.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. I think it's a disgrace. It's really frustrating when you look back over the last 20 years, what we did in the Middle East. We seem to have made all the bad decisions and not any of the good ones. We seem to have fought the wrong fights at the wrong times. And it's sad, mate, because like you know better than anybody, but that these guys they're good guys. You know, they deserve better than what we've given them.
It's shocking as well because the Kurds, for example, like they're probably the best allies that the West are ever going to have in the Middle East. I was speaking to an American soldier on one of the operations there. I was like sat around the fire with him. And I was like, it was like the only time I ever got to speak to the Americans, and I was like intrigued about like how they thought about the Kurds, and they loved the Kurds, like they loved working alongside them, like because the Kurds, they love them, like they're really super pro-West, like pro-democracy, stuff like that. And one of the things I will always remember the American said to me was like, I was in Afghanistan, and like. The Kurds are 100 times better to work with compared to the ANA. And when you think about it, like we've been in like Afghanistan for like nearly 20 years now, aren't we? And when the soldiers are turning around and saying they prefer like a recently new ally compared to a supposed ally that they've been training for years, but yet they can't trust because there's so many insiders with the Taliban there. Like it really just says something about the politics, like like going on like higher up.
No, absolutely, mate. Johnny, thanks so much for coming on today, mate. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you come back and join us again in the future. Do you have any parting words to leave the guests with?
I'll just tell people to like do their research into the conflicts. Keep your eyes on like the more independent sources. Like it's the best way to keep track of what's going on, especially with Ukraine and like you said, the current situation in Armenia and Azerbaijan.
All right, mate. Well, thanks so much for today, Johnny. Hopefully catch you again soon, mate.
Cheers.
Johnny, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, mate. Guys, thank you for listening. Zulu Alpha Straps, thank you for supporting the podcast. We love you. We appreciate what you have been doing. You have been sponsoring us from the very beginning, and I know that our noble, loyal listeners will want to get behind you and come and check out those sexy operator wrists and the Zulu Alpha straps that adorn them. Guys, please head over to Royal British Legion, check them out, follow them on social media if you're not already, at Royal British Legion. Everything is tagged up in the show notes, guys. I won't keep you any longer because I know you've all got busy lives. You're all out there flourishing, aren't you? I hope you're all thriving, guys. If you're not, then drop us a line because maybe we can point you in the right direction. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time. I love you. Bye.
You told me not to worry and you wouldn't break my heart. You told me you were sorry, yeah, my whole world fell apart. You said it's not my fault and yeah, I've never done you wrong. I'm grinding to a halt, now I can see you're moving on. I promised I'd get better and I told you things would change. You keep me to the gutter, yeah, I'll never be the same. I've got to let you go, now live your life and spread your wings. And yeah, you put on quite a show and pulled the puppet strings. And are you sure that you don't want me? Remember all the pain, or maybe you should thank me. It's your loss and my gain. I'm leaving now forever, I won't hang my head in shame. But yeah, you've taken me for granted and you should feel ashamed. You sold a dream to all of us, a dream that we'd all die for, a reason for us all to live and something we could fight for. I might just help a man up to his feet or hold a newborn, but no matter what I do, my hands remembering my rifle, yeah.
Life's hard, I know that, still wouldn't change shit. I wouldn't go back, yeah, I wouldn't go back. Feelings I hold back, memories fade, yeah, they go fast, yeah, they go fast. Good times to come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose. Good times to come and go, survive the highs and lows. Just take it step by step, I guess, yeah.